It's amazing what happens when you decide to take risks in life, beyond reason, of course. It's a bit like you fake it till you make it. Well, that's pretty much what I was doing when I was asked to take care of choosing sound effects for the wacky HBO comedy TV show, a job I'd never done before. Most of the effects were standard or stock sounds, a clock ticking, birds twittering, a dog barking, water splashing, and so on. And I'd give my assistant Alex a list, and he'd go off to the sound effects library and come back with a variety of different sounds. Then we'd choose what we thought would be appropriate for the scene. Sometimes there were a few unusual effects. For instance, one of the sketches had a guy trying to see how many times he could slam his hand in a drawer while he was being tested by a representative from the Guinness Book of World Records. I told you it was pretty wacky. I sent Alex to the sound library to find bone-cracking sounds, which he was actually able to get. But when we couldn't find quite the right sound for the clanking of prisoners' chains for another sketch, I asked Alex to buy lengths of chain link of different size and weight, and we created exactly the right sound by dragging the chain across the mic stand in the recording booth. We were working on these sound effects for 22 hours non-stop with the sound engineer Larry Levine, who was famous for creating The Wall of Sound with Phil Spector. Most of you will probably need to look that one up. It was very intense, but so much fun. We loved it. I then sent the mixed episodes of the comedy show to Barry Levinson in London for his approval and suggestions. He always approved of everything, and he said that some of the sound effects made him laugh. Of course, that made Alex and I happy, knowing we'd done a good job. Working in an established television production company meant that there were endless opportunities for growth, especially if one were eager to learn. Because of my success with the sound effects on the comedy show, the producers asked me if I would be interested in researching sensational divorce cases for a television series called Divorce Court. I dutifully went along to the UCLA Law Library and ploughed through divorce records from every American state, looking for stories with entertainment value. Unfortunately, because there were so many no-fault US states where dirty laundry did not need to be declared for a divorce to be granted, there weren't as many juicy stories as I would have liked. However, I managed to grab a few titillating headlines that I thought would appeal to the producers, and was asked if I would like to have a go at writing a script. Well, I'd never done that before. I had to write 2.5 scripts a week and ended up writing 10 shows in 4 weeks. There was a particular format to this 30-minute TV series, and it was very challenging. Although meant to be based on real divorce cases, the writers, I was one of 6 and the only inexperienced writer, were allowed to embellish on each real case and create fictional stories. The reason for the divorce was stated, then the writers described the background of the plaintiff and defendant, husband and wife, how they met and so forth, also details of their witnesses. We wrote the lawyers' opening and closing statements, as well as all dialogue from the parties involved, including cross-examination. Just before each commercial break, we needed to introduce a dramatic moment, a cliffhanger, so that the audience would keep watching the show. All characters were played by actors, but the judge was real. Even though we wrote his summing up and decision, he injected his own words to make it authentic. I loved writing these episodes, and it seemed to flow easily. Strangely, I realized that when I was put in a position where my back was against the wall, where there were deadlines and pressure to deliver, I rose to the occasion. I was definitely able to keep up with the other writers, And in fact, the head story editor couldn't believe that I'd never written for television before. That did wonders for my ego. Then, when one of my scripts was chosen for the pilot episode, and I heard actors speaking my words, I was thrilled beyond measure. It was a great feeling to know that I had been successful in yet another area of the television business. However, because I was naive and happy to have been given the opportunity, it never occurred to me to ask for more money. Nor did I realize the importance of credits in the film and TV industries. It's very common in Hollywood for people in high-profile jobs, working for celebrities and doing other work they love, to be taken advantage of. Yes, there might be perks here and there, but usually the paycheck does not reflect the effort, ability and commitment of the employee. If he or she ever complained, there's a line around the block of others chomping at the bit to step into their low-paying shoes. 7 years after I'd worked on Divorce Court, I was on the phone to my auntie in Coventry. "I saw your name on the television," she said. By this time, I did actually have credits on several films, but not as a writer. So I assumed it was one of those. No, it was Divorce Court. It said, "Writer Marie Rowe." It was only then that it occurred to me that I was eligible to join the Writers Guild of America, because my work had been broadcast. I was very excited as I dialed their number, knowing this would give me access to well-paid writing jobs and a pension down the road. But I was out of luck. In order to qualify as a member of the Guild, I had 5 years to register after the show had initially been broadcast. I was 2 years too late. Although naturally I was disappointed, I reflected on the Divorce Court writing experience and realized how important it was for me to do a good job and not let the producers down. This had pretty much been my modus operandi since I'd been given a TV production manager job at the CBC. The fact that others believed in me gave me the confidence I was lacking. Unfortunately, even though I managed to gain a new skill, I still didn't have enough confidence to take care of myself. A savvier person would have insisted on being paid more money and made sure of Writers Guild membership. That's why creative talent rely on agents and managers to protect them. But I didn't know. No matter what work we do and how much we contribute, it's important to be recognized and rewarded accordingly. I'm sure I've said this previously, but it's worth repeating. We must believe that we're as good as the next person, and it's essential that we stick up for ourselves. Yes, we need to be acknowledged and appreciated for the unique abilities we bring to any situation and for the difference we make in the lives of others. But first, we need to know our worth. While Barry Levinson was in London directing young Sherlock Holmes, I was then roped in by the TV production company to work with a different team of writers on a series called First and 10. This was the story of a woman managing an American football team. The main star of the show was O.J. Simpson, who was well known for his skills as a football player and then later for getting away with murder. The Juice and I were only on nodding terms, since I only saw him on the set when we were filming and when I was giving the actors script changes. Whenever there were casting sessions and the call went out for footballers, big, brawny men traipsed by my office in pursuit of a role in the TV series alongside O.J. On one occasion, a well-built man in his early 30s poked his head around my office door. "Oh, casting is a couple of doors down," I told him. He stood there for a while and then said, "I was looking for some water." "There's a water fountain at the end of the hall. I'll show you." I got up from my desk and he followed me down the hall. I filled a paper cup with water and handed it to him. "Thank you, ma'am," he said very politely. Because I needed to talk to one of the producers, whose office was at that end of the hall, I left the man, who I presumed was an actor or a football player. He was standing drinking his water, and I went into the producer's office. When I returned to my own office a few minutes later, I noticed that water had been spilt on my desk, and I knew I hadn't done that. I got a weird feeling in the pit of my stomach and checked my bag, which had been sitting on the floor next to my chair. Sure enough, my wallet was missing. Next time, confronting a robber and casting topless girls many years before the Me Too movement. Thanks for listening.